What's going on, Who Dat Nation, and what's going on, sports fans? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, and welcome to the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast and the State of the Saints Podcast. And we combined the two on this edition because we're going to be talking a little bit about the New Orleans Saints, and of course, we're going to get you prepared for the NFL Wildcard weekend. If you're watching this video and you are a fan of a team that actually made the postseason, congratulations to you. Wish my team was in that number, no pun intended, but the New Orleans Saints are not. But the best thing about the postseason, no matter how your team finished, the fact is they're in the postseason, and everybody is 0-0 as of right now. All it takes is a couple of really good performances, and you can find yourself in the Super Bowl. But we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs in just a minute. But we're going to talk first about the New Orleans Saints. There were some stories coming out about the New Orleans Saints. I don't think I did a episode about this just yet. It was in regards to Jeff Duncan's article about the New Orleans Saints and some of the things that were going on within the team that could affect how we saw them throughout the season. There were reports about the New Orleans Saints players not studying hard enough. They have Microsoft tablets that can actually add up how long they were actually studying. It wasn't to the liking of the coaches. Also, the bus, not showing up on time for the bus leaving late, players parking in handicapped parking spaces that wasn't designated to them. All these things were, leading up to questions about Dennis Allen and his leadership skills. And if you combine what we heard throughout the entire week because of what happened in the final game of the season with Jameis Winston and the Saints offense coming together to allow Jamal Williams to get his first touchdown of the season, a lot of people would think that, it's pretty much a coach that just does not have the respect of his football team. And I, for one, feel that is the case. I feel like this team does not respect Dennis Allen. I don't think that this is one of those situations where you can make individuals respect somebody. Respect is earned. Is earned through, showing leadership, showing that you're willing to be up to the task, doing the little things to show people that they can have, if you have their back, they can have yours. Stuff like that, But when you have a coach that's kind of passive, and Dennis Allen kind of strikes me that way, and also you combine with former executive Amy Trask of the Raiders, who was with Dennis Allen for one season when he was in Oakland, you have to say, man, this is one of those situations that won't end pretty. It just won't. It will not end pretty. Like, you can't force the issue. And the only way I see the New Orleans Saints being able to maybe possibly get players into the good graces of Dennis Allen, you got to do what you did back in 2015, 2016, around that time where you had a lot of bad apples in the locker room, guys that were very, very vocal, guys that were kind of going against the grain, wasn't very happy, guys like Junior Gillette, guys like that, individuals that were outspoken, and, it just created a negative work environment, and it didn't help the coaches. So Sean Payton ended up doing a complete overhaul, start getting good character guys in here, bringing in guys like, Demario Davis. You remember they had the 2017 draft class that kind of helped them to be able to get that winning formula back. All these different things. That is the only way I can see the New Orleans Saints being able to maybe, get players to buy into what Dennis Allen is selling, because what you have right now is a bunch of guys that won a lot of games, like Michael Thomas, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore. These guys won a lot of games, and they have got as far as the NFC Championship. And we all know what happened in 2018. I don't need to tell you about that. You pretty much know yourself. But the fact of the matter is, these guys know about winning. And when you have a coach that hasn't won anything, but stand up there and act as if he does, I mean, you kind of scratch your head and be like, maybe this isn't working, especially if you're not winning consistently. So I feel like you're going to have to, get rid of guys like Marshawn Lattimore. You're going to have to get rid of guys like Michael Thomas, not sign them back. You're going to have to completely overhaul this locker room and bring in a bunch of young guys that are only looking at Dennis Allen with fresh eyes, right? They say the first impression is a lasting impression. So if you bring some young guys in, they can be impressed, I guess, by Dennis Allen, or he can benefit from the fact that they don't know any better. But as long as you can continue to go down this path with guys that have won some things and been to the playoffs and all these different things, like, you're going to continue to have these issues. And this is something that I think the New Orleans Saints need to understand. And I also feel like they need to also reconsider maybe bringing in John Gruden, because John Gruden, to me, has a very, very alpha male type personality, and it can overshadow Dennis Allen. And if the players start to lean towards John Gruden, the voice of Dennis Allen can start to go on deaf ears, and that will be a recipe for disaster. So I feel like the New Orleans Saints maybe need to tread lightly about this whole John Gruden situation, because it can end bad for Dennis Allen. But the New Orleans Saints have already pretty much told everyone that they're going to retain Dennis Allen, even though there are so many other qualified coaches out there that's looking for a job. Coaches like Bill Belichick, maybe Pete Carroll might be interested in coaching again. There are so many different guys that you can actually hire, and not to mention a lot of these new, high-profile guys that were coordinators, like Mike McDaniel. Not Mike McDaniel, but the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. His name escapes me right now. You got Ben Johnson out there. You got so many different guys, and it just seems like the NFL is starting to lean towards the young, vibrant guys, because, these younger coaches, they know how to relate to these players. They know how to talk to them. They kind of go through some of the same things that these players go through. So I feel like the NFL is starting to lean towards those young coaches. We've seen the New England Patriots hire Gerard Mayo. Ben Johnson, once again, he's not a very old gentleman. He's in his 30s. Shane Steichen with the Indianapolis Colts, he's about 37, 38 years old. These guys, these owners and these organizations want younger guys, and They want guys that can relate to this younger generation, and they're doing a really good job. We have DeMeco Ryans out here, a former player. He's coaching the team. You have Antonio Pierce. More than likely, he's going to be out there with the Las Vegas Raiders. So you got a bunch of former players out there that knows and understands what these players are going through, and these players know that. So it's making them more willing to work with these coaches. So I feel like that's something that maybe the Saints need to reconsider. But I think that one of the biggest issues with the New Orleans Saints is their fear of the unknown. I think that the Saints want to go with something familiar because it makes them comfortable. I think that the Saints need to get out of their comfort zone if they want to kind of navigate through these issues that they've been having over the last couple of years. I think they're going to have to think outside the box. They're going to have to become unconventional in order for them to do that. Other teams are starting to do it, and they're finding success. It's a copycat league, and for some apparent reason, the New Orleans Saints just don't want to do that. But they're going to continue to have these same issues, because if you look at the NFC South, these young players are only going to get better on these other teams. And if the New Orleans Saints aren't careful, they're going to find themselves in the basement. And, I can't even brag or boast about this football team and the future of this football team. When a rival team fan come at me, I can't even respond and say, we going to get y'all next time, because I honestly do not know. I don't feel like the New Orleans Saints are going to reach their full potential until, number one, Mickey Loomis just realized he made a mistake with Dennis Allen, and number two, they get rid of Dennis Allen and find somebody else that can be able to breathe life into this organization and not have a passive type personality and act like they're afraid to make a big decision. But I digress. Also, they need to draft better. These last few drafts, You had a few guys that worked out, but for the most part, it's been absolutely garbage. And this is one of the reasons why you kind of are falling further and further back. To me, the New Orleans Saints are trying to be the smartest organization in the room instead of them just going for what works. Instead of them trying to go out here and trying to find guys that you have to take a canoe boat and get a tour guide to lead you up some tall stairs to find your draft picks, how about going with some of the guys that you know that work? How about going with some of the guys that you know are going to give you a certain level of production because they did it on a collegiate level at a high level? How about going after guys like Jarrett Verse out of Florida State? How about going after guys like Dallas Turner out of Alabama, Joe Alt out of Notre Dame? Go for the usual guys that you see that are really, really talented instead of some of these guys that's coming from some of these no-name schools. No disrespect, but I'm just being honest, right? There's nothing wrong with, finding a guy from a unknown school and drafting them early, but when you have so many other qualified guys and you just completely skip past them in order for you to find some guys so you can be like, you know what? Nobody was looking at him, but I was. And it just don't pan out. The Davenports, the Peyton Turners, sounds good. Guys have really good upside, but you're actually just hoping that it works, and it has not. So how about going with something that you know that works? The Ohio States, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the Alabamas, the Florida States. How about going with some of those universities where they take the time to get these 4- and 5-star athletes for a reason? Because if you're not careful, you're going to find yourself picking in the top 5 in 2025, and nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see it. Saints fans don't want to see it. So how about going with something that works? That is my opinion. That's what I feel like the Saints need to do in order for them to get out of this situation. But we all know that the Saints are going to do what they want to do. Blame the fans, blame the media, not going to look at themselves and say, you know what we're doing isn't working. They're never going to do that, right? We've heard the interview from Mickey Loomis, calling people stupid when they say that Dennis Allen lost the locker room, even though the article by Jeff Duncan came out pretty much tells you that he lost the locker room. But you have to give them respect in this regard. The Saints finished, they won 4 out of their last 5 games. I don't put any stock into that at all. I don't put into any type of, I don't have any type of confidence in this organization at all. Nothing what they did down the stretch to me tells me what we're going to see in 2024. You're going to have a completely different overhaul. This team is going to have to look completely different. And, I still feel like a tiger can't change his stripes. And Dennis Allen eventually is going to lose that locker room, especially if this team goes on a losing streak again, because guys are going to realize that maybe the Saints don't have the right person in place. And hopefully the New Orleans Saints see that and they can find somebody, because these other teams, they're looking. Carolina, they're looking. Atlanta, they're looking. And Atlanta has been kind of connected to Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick goes to the Atlanta Falcons with the talent that they have, they probably be able to live up to their potential, because we know more than likely they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round. Rather it's Jaden Daniels, Michael Paddix, Drake May, or someone else. But the Saints are going to have to be prepared, because, my goodness, if they get a good coach and a decent quarterback, this is another team that you're going to have to worry about. You already have to worry about Tampa, and now you're going to have to worry about Atlanta. And if Bryce Young can get it together, and he can get a coach that can actually believe in him, then, you have to look at the Saints, look at them being one of the oldest teams in the league, and it can be an uphill climb for the black and gold, and it can be some very, very dark days for the Who Dat Nation. But hopefully that doesn't happen, because the New Orleans Saints learn from their mistakes. I hope. But let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about the NFL Wildcard weekend. This is what everybody's been waiting for. This is what everybody's been talking about as I look down at my phone to see the games that are going to be played. Now, I'm actually doing this show on a Saturday afternoon. All right. So we know that, the wild card games that are going to be played. The first game is going to be the Cleveland Browns versus the Houston Texans. Should be an exciting game. You have the Houston Texans who end up winning the AFC South because the Jacksonville Jaguars completely collapsed. I don't know what the heck was going on with that. They started off red hot and just fumbled down the stretch. I think it had a lot to do with Trevor Lawrence's injury, but I digress. But you still, regardless, you got to win these games. I mean, you pretty much, were high step into the end zone and just stumbled over your own feet. I mean, you basically Daniel Jones your way, out of the playoffs. Y'all remember that when Daniel Jones ran that long run, he tripped over his own feet like nobody was going to catch him. But anyway, but the Houston Texans are ahead of schedule. People thought that the Houston Texans, you'll probably see some progress. You'll probably see a much better campaign in 2023 than you did in 2022 when they only had 3 wins. But you have to give credit to DeMeco Ryans, who I feel like is going to be coach of the year. He got a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud, does not look like a rookie. He got Nico Collins out there who's looking like one of the best wide receivers in football. Unfortunately, Tank Dell, he hurt himself, but before that, he was exciting to watch. You have Devin Singletary. You got Dameon Pierce. You got a lot of young talent on his team. You got so many different young, talented defensive players, on this team as well. And you also have a young secondary. I mean, this team pretty much is playing with house money, the Houston Texans, going into the playoffs. Like, they can kind of play loose and free. And if they lose this game, nobody would be around this thing getting mad because nobody expected them to be in this position at all. And then you look at the Cleveland Browns, who everybody thought their season was going to be over when Deshaun Watson was out for the season. They end up signing Joe Flacco, and I don't know what happened. I guess Joe Flacco thinks he's playing for the Baltimore Ravens back in 2012 or something because he looks like a really good quarterback. I mean, he's up there in age. He's about 37, 38 years old, but Joe Flacco's still slinging that thing, and he's still out there making plays. I mean, the guy is pretty much bored. He's falling asleep on a bench, but he has some really good, talented guys around him. He has some really good, talented young players, to accompany him. We know about the running back, Jerome Ford. He has 204 attempts for 813 yards and 9 touchdowns, along with Kareem Hunt, who they signed midway through the season. David Bell, he's a young wide receiver that had a pretty good game. And we also know about Amari Cooper and Njoku, the tight end. Amari Cooper having monster games with Joe Flacco and Njoku really stepping up, emerging as that leader on offense. The Cleveland Browns are a scary good team. Like, this may sound crazy, but the Cleveland Browns could make it to the Super Bowl because they have a really good defense. We all know about Myles Garrett. I mean, he's going to be hunting all day and all night. This team is like really, really talented, man. And you got Denzel Ward out there. You got so many young, talented players, man. And, the thing about it is when a team starts to, lose, consistently, eventually, like when you start picking in the top 5 and you're doing the right things, your team starts to get better because you're picking really good, talented young guys. And not to mention, if you're constantly picking them, they're on rookie deals. So you can accompany them, with veteran leadership, or you can actually pay guys like Myles Garrett. And the fact that you got Joe Flacco off the street, I mean, it helps you as well. Now, I know about the whole Deshaun Watson, guaranteed money thing, but because you have so many young players that are still on rookie deals, you can do stuff like that. So who is going to win this football game? In my humble opinion, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to win. I think that they have a really good running game. I think that Joe Flacco, he thrives in the postseason. I don't know what it is. He plays pretty pedestrian in the regular season, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs, he turns into Joe Montana. I mean, it is one of the most craziest things you're ever going to see. But I got the Cleveland Browns because, I picked the Cleveland Browns at the beginning of the season to make some noise. People thought that was funny. But when you have a talented defense like this and you have a really good running game, you can win anywhere. And we know that you have a lot of games that are going to be played in inclement weather, bad snowy conditions. And the best thing that you can do is have a good defense and a good running game. If you have those two elements, you can be a dangerous football team, and it works. So I got the Cleveland Browns winning this football game, but I think it's going to be an exciting one. But I just think that, I guess the Cinderella story is about to come to an end for the Houston Texans. The next game is going to be a real cold game. I heard that it might get, it might feel like -30. We're talking about the Miami Dolphins taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Tyreek Hill revenge game. Look, I look at the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what to think about them. They have a really good offense, so we know that. They like to throw the ball around. They got Jalen Waddle. They got Tyreek Hill. They got Cedric Wilson. You got A-Chain. You got Raheem Mostert. I mean, look, they have an embarrassment of riches when it comes offensively. But the losses that they've had throughout the last few weeks on defense, I feel like it is going to affect them in this game. Losing Bradley Chubb for the season, losing some of their top pass rushers, for the season. And not to mention, I just think that, in big games, for some apparent reason, they just don't show up. I mean, they got beat to sleep by the Baltimore Ravens. So the Baltimore Ravens pretty much just showed them that there's levels to this, and they weren't ready for prime time. But then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that everybody always picks, but they don't look like the Kansas City Chiefs. The people may not want to admit it, but I think the loss of Eric Bieniemy really hurt Patrick Mahomes this season and this offense. So I think it pretty much answers the question, how effective as a coach was Eric Bieniemy? I think you're getting your answer right now, because Matt Nagy, no disrespect to him, he isn't doing a really good job. You can say that, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have any weapons. Guys are dropping passes. That is true. But you have to put the ball into the hands of your playmakers and allow them to make plays. Like, you got Rashee Rice out there. This seems like this is the guy that they need to be focused on. But instead, they want to distribute the ball and, try to give it to everybody else like Kadarius Toney and, stuff like that. But that's just not working. But both of these teams have some struggles. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this football game. Look, I don't buy into that whole, you're playing in Miami. It's fair conditions. It's 70 degrees. I think that's the dumbest. I think that's the dumbest statement people can make. Like, when they say dome teams can't travel on the road in cold conditions. Like, you have to think about this. These teams are drafting players. These players are coming from everywhere, right? They're coming from Wisconsin. They're coming from Canada. They're coming from New York. They're coming from all these different places that's cold. So why does it matter? Like, it's not like you got a bunch of guys from Florida on your team. Like, you might have a few, but for the most part, it's a collection of guys from all across the country and around the world. So weather does not matter in this situation. It's about X's and O's. Who can come up with a better game plan? And Andy Reid, in my opinion, he's just a better coach. I mean, we know Andy Reid is a great coach, Hall of Fame coach. Mike McDaniel, I think that he is going to be a really good coach, but he has to figure it out. And I don't think he has figured it out yet. I think they're going to run the football. That's the most beneficial thing about this, because both teams are going to run the football. So if you're doing like DraftKings or fantasy football or something like that, make sure that you actually have these running backs in your lineup, because they're going to run the football, because you want to keep that clock moving, right? It's cold out there. You want to keep that clock moving, right? So I think that you're probably going to see more running attempts than passing attempts in a game like this. So to me, I would say stockpile the running backs. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this football game. Then you have a game on tomorrow that has been changed due to the weather that's going on, the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bad weather all across the North right now. But the Buffalo Bills, one of the most red-hot teams in the NFL right now, basically pulled themselves back up and made it interesting, and then end up winning the freaking division. Like, you got to give credit to Sean McDermott. When they fired Ken Dorsey, people just thought that, man, maybe they're trying to figure it out for next season, probably make the playoffs, but won't look as impressive as they did in years past. But they got the job done. They won the division. They knocked off the Miami Dolphins, and now they got a home game. And they're going up against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that is led by a head coach, a real head coach, a leader of men in Mike Tomlin. And I just think that he is a very, very special coach. And I have nothing but love and respect for Mike Tomlin. No doubt about that. But I think the Buffalo Bills have something to prove here. They've been knocking on the door of prosperity for a very, very long time over the last 4 to 5 seasons. It is time for them to kind of break through. And I think they're going to try to do everything that they can. The only thing that really, truly bothers me is Josh Allen. I know they've been winning games, but Josh Allen has been turning the ball over at an alarming rate. I mean, to me, I don't see a difference between him and Jameis Winston. The only difference I see is, Josh Allen is Jameis Winston with more success. Like, he's won playoff games. I feel like if Josh Allen didn't really win anything, like, I think that people would look at him in the same light as they look at Jameis Winston, turning the ball over. But he has to take care of the football. And how you take care of the football, you got to run it. And James Cook has to hold on to the football. He's fumbled quite often. You got to hold on to that football, man, because in a game like this, every play matters. Every play matters. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to play this game tough. I think that they're going to stay in it. They got to get George Pickens involved. Don't know what happened with that. He was having a monster run over the last few games, and then the last game of the season, they just decided that they weren't going to give him the football. You got to be able to utilize George Pickens. You got to be able to utilize your running backs, okay? You got to get Najee Harris involved. He's been running pretty hard. And in a game like this where it's going to be cold, people don't want to tackle anybody. You got to get a ball and you got to feed the hungry with this. But I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win this football game. But Josh Allen has got to hold on to the football, because if he doesn't, don't be shocked if the Pittsburgh Steelers end up winning this football game. The next game will be the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Green Bay Packers. Now, we all heard about Dak Prescott being questionable for this game, which came at a shock. But look, Dak Prescott is going to play in this football game. Dak Prescott is going to play. Dak Prescott has something to prove. People have been talking about Dak Prescott, calling him a game manager, saying that he ain't worthy of being an MVP, saying that he's not, a really good quarterback, all these different things. Now you have a time to exercise your demons, and you have an opportunity to knock out a team that has constantly been a thorn in the side of Dallas Cowboy fans and Dak Prescott. And I'm talking about the Green Bay Packers. Look, the Green Bay Packers, they finished strong. They played really well down the stretch. But, Jordan Love, that is the question. Like, can Jordan Love be able to replicate some of the great performances we've seen over the last 2 games? He's going up against a Cowboy defense that can get pressure. And they got guys in the secondary. If you put the ball anywhere near them, they can take it to the house. Okay, Deron Bland is one of them. You got Jordan Lewis out there. Stephon Gilmore, he's questionable as of right now, dealing with that injury. But you got so many different talented guys. And then on the offensive side of football, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Ferguson, Tony Pollard. So many talented guys on this Cowboys team. I never thought I'd be doing this, but I got to pick the Cowboys, man. The Cowboys are going to win this football game. It's a home game, and we know that they thrive at home. The biggest issue is them going on the road and playing. But the good thing about this is if they win this week, they get opportunity to play at home again the following week. So if you have 2 home games, you can find yourself in the NFC Championship game. And I'm pretty sure that's what Cowboy fans wanted. And that's something that they haven't had in a very, very long time. So I got the Dallas Cowboys winning this football game. Green Bay, I think they're going to put forward a great effort because Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. But I have to say that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this football game. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, this is a quarterback revenge game here. What you have is Jared Goff, who's playing his former team, and Matthew Stafford playing his former team. And you have to look at this game if you're a front office member And you got to be pretty, excited about this because the guy that you traded for in Matthew Stafford and the guy that Detroit Lions received, both of these guys end up panning out for their respected organizations. But both of these guys, especially Jared Goff, you got to think about this. He has the chip on his shoulder, not so much Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford wanted to leave. He wanted to go. But Jared Goff, they pretty much said, we're not going to win with you. We're not going to get to the ultimate goal with you. But Jared Goff has been playing pretty good throughout the season. He's had some up and down games, but for the most part, Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, has done a really, really good job at managing Jared Goff, putting him in the right position to succeed and putting weapons around him in order for him to do that. And then you have the Los Angeles Rams, who started off a little slow, but down the stretch have become one of the most red-hot teams in football. We know that Sean McVay is a really good play caller. He's a guy that's extremely talented when it comes to putting guys in position to succeed. And you also got to give credit to the front office of the Los Angeles Rams because, they don't have first-round picks. They're always surrendering those first-round picks to get high-value NFL talent. But they always seem to find guys in later rounds to make some noise, man. And Kua, you know what I'm saying? Like, guys like that, Cooper Kupp. So many different guys. And they always seem to make it work. And now you look at this team. You look at this team and it seems like they're trending in the right direction. Now they're playing red-hot football. And you have the Detroit Lions who, to me, they remind me of the 2006 New Orleans Saints. It was like one of those teams where, they were talented. They had a really good offensive mind that was putting them in a position to succeed. They were winning football games and, but they weren't there yet. It's kind of like they're building a foundation. And Dan Campbell has done a really, really good job with that, who also should be up for Coach of the Year. But you look at the Detroit Lions and the Rams, it's just going to come down to me is who can execute better, who has the better coaching. And at this stage, I just feel like the Rams have the better coaching. I think that the Detroit Lions fans are going to be loud and boisterous. I think they're going to be excited. To me, this might even be the game of the weekend. Like, this might be the most exciting game out of all these games throughout the weekend. Based on these three games that I mentioned earlier, the Bills and the Steelers, the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and the Cowboys and the Packers, that has a recipe to be exciting. But I think these two teams right here, I think this is going to be the most exciting game of the weekend. So this is one of those T.O. get your popcorn ready type games. I think that the Rams are going to win this football game based on the coaching. I think that it's going to be a back and forth thing. But it's going to be crazy, man. It's one of those, Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair WrestleMania moments, right, with Matthew Stafford. Like when Shawn Michaels wanted to put down Ric Flair, he whispered, "I'm sorry, I love you." And he gave him a super kick and pinned him 1, 2, 3. I feel like that's probably going to be the same thing that happens, with Matthew Stafford. I love you. I love you, Detroit, but I got to do what I got to do. So the Rams are going to win this football game, in my opinion. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were winners of the NFC South. They definitely exceeded expectations. They showed the entire world it wasn't just Tom Brady. It was actually a bad division. But nevertheless, look, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did what they needed to do. Look, as a Saints fan, look, I was extremely upset that they were kind of bragging and boasting about, winning a sorry, pathetic division. But as I took time to think about it, I understand where they're coming from. Nobody expected them to do anything at all. Like, when they saw Baker Mayfield as their starting quarterback, people snickered. Like, I guess they trying to pick in the top 3. But they won a division, and they got a home game against the Philadelphia Eagles team that I don't know what the heck is going on with them. Sputtering would be an understatement. They sputtered down the stretch. It was absolutely embarrassing to watch. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, like losing to teams that basically, gave you an opportunity to have the NFC East on a silver platter, losing to the Arizona Cardinals, getting beat down by the Giants. And you can take those guys out of the game and try to make it seem like, oh, you weren't playing for real. No, they wanted that game. You wanted to win the division. By winning that game, gave you an opportunity to win the division, and they just completely fumbled all over themselves. Now, there are reports talking about Jalen Hurts and dealing with injuries, but I feel like this is the issue when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Number one, Shane Steichen not being there. I think that Shane Steichen was extremely instrumental in helping Jalen Hurts have that MVP campaign he had, and also helping these guys get to the Super Bowl. Now, there are reports that's talking about Nick Sirianni being exposed as a coach because, a lot of guys kind of helped him and elevated him and made him look better than what he actually was. Look, I'm not buying any of that stuff. Nick Sirianni is a good coach, and they were looking good at the beginning of the season. For some apparent reason, they just, forgot who they are. And it's really, really tough to know if this team is capable of winning a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, this may sound crazy, but it probably won't sound crazy to Eagles fans. But there's a strong possibility that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can not only win this game, but blow out the Philadelphia Eagles. There is something going on within that organization right now. Like, it's not just, oh, we're just losing games. There is a reason why they are losing football games the way that they are. I don't know if somebody got ticked off within the organization, somebody's not happy. I don't know what it is. But they just fell off the face of the earth. Like, after that Kansas City Chiefs game, they just fell off the face of the earth. Like, I can't even explain it. But they're going to have to find a way to knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? You got to be able to get pressure on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is going to be looking to try to throw the football to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Trey Palmer and all those young weapons that they have. They're going to try to run the football. They've been doing that pretty well. And they're going to want to play defense. And they play really good defense. You got to give Tampa credit with that. Todd Bowles, got to give him credit. But, I think this is a big game for Todd Bowles as well. It's not just about winning a sorry division. Like, it's about winning a football game. And there are reports that are going out saying that, Todd Bowles could possibly lose his job if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't put forward a decent playoff campaign. Now, that may sound crazy to some, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans that love Todd Bowles, but there is a head coach out there by the name of Bill Belichick. And no disrespect to Todd Bowles, if you have an opportunity to get Bill Belichick as your head coach, you take that opportunity. You take that and you run with it. I mean, it's just like some Tampa Bay fans when it came to Jameis Winston. You had a lot of Tampa Bay fans that like Jameis Winston, didn't want to see him leave. But when you have Tom Brady to be his replacement, I mean, why wouldn't you want to do something like that, right? When a proven winner, a guy that you know for a fact that can get you where you need to be, and he has that recipe for success. People can say, oh, man, this was Tom Brady. Look, man, we seen Bill Belichick win with Jacoby Brissett. We seen him win with Jimmy Garoppolo. We seen him win, with so many other different quarterbacks. Matt Castle, got him paid. So to say that Bill Belichick is just a one-trick pony because he had Tom Brady, I don't feel like that's true. And if there's an opportunity where Bill Belichick wants to come to Tampa, and you don't think Tampa won't take that into consideration, like, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, like, you have got to be insane. Like, you do not hang up the phone in the face of Bill Belichick, a guy who has won, 6 Super Bowls. You just don't do it. But hopefully it don't go to that point. Hopefully the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can put forward a decent showing. I'm going to look at this game objectively. I'm taking, forget all the stuff behind me talking about the NFC South and all that. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this football game. Like, I'm serious. Like, after thinking about it, after looking at some of the situations, I got Tampa winning this football game. I think that Jalen Hurts is more hurt than people are letting him off to be. I think there's more of a division inside of that locker room in Philly than it appears. And I just don't see them winning this football game, man. I just don't. I think that Tampa is determined to show everybody it wasn't just Tom Brady. And I think they want Todd Bowles to remain their head coach. So they're going to play hard for this guy. And they're going to go out there and put forth their best effort. And that defense is good enough to neutralize Jalen Hurts, and especially if he's dealing with any type of ailments there. So I got Tampa winning this football game, man, and advancing to the divisional rounds. And then they'll get slapped around. But all seriousness, thank you all so much for checking out the Gumbo Pot and the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Much love to you. Shouts out to everybody listening. Hope everybody enjoyed these playoff games. Once again, is excited to actually have your team in the postseason. It's exciting to actually have your team actually having a chance at the Super Bowl. To me, it's going to be a fresh look. I don't think Kansas City is going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, and I don't think it's Philly. So you're going to have a different looking Super Bowl than you had last year, and it might even be one of those Super Bowls that shock you. But we'll be back to talk a little bit about what happened on the Gumbo Pot, breaking down each game, and also, getting you ready for the divisional round. And for the Saints fans out there, we're going to continue to make the State of the Saints podcast. We're going to kind of transition to the Senior Bowl. I will be out at the Senior Bowl in a couple of weeks to break that down. We will be bringing the State of the Saints podcast to Mobile, so I'm excited about that. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?